Next on Currents News, leaders of the world's three great religions make history at the Vatican. They're protecting people facing the final stages of their lives. The ISIS terrorist known as the Destroyer could be dead already, hours after he took charge of the group. The California wildfires are only getting worse, leaving the Archbishop of Los Angeles praying for his people. Plus, Joe Biden is caught up in controversy tonight over his support for abortion. A Catholic priest denied the Democrat Holy Communion.
A Catholic high school student in Queens is raising awareness about breast cancer in a special way. I'm Tim Hartman. I'll tell you how she's doing it and why the cause is so important to her family. That's coming up.
A big night of news starts now. Good evening, I'm Tamara Lane. We begin tonight with a historic moment at the Vatican. Pope Francis is teaming up with Christian, Jewish, and Muslim leaders to defend life. They're declaring that it is always wrong to commit euthanasia or assisted suicide. Melissa Butts is standing by in St. Peter's Square with the latest.
Yes, in fact, for the first time in history, Christians, Jews, and Muslims signed a historic document in defense of life, especially in its final stages. Euthanasia and assisted suicide are being condemned by leaders of the three main religions that believe in one God. After signing their names to the historic document, they presented it to Pope Francis. The agreement supports palliative care for dying patients, protecting their rights and dignity.
There is a tendency to take the value of life much cheaper than it used to be throughout generations.
The text defines a dying patient as suffering from a fatal, incurable, and irreversible disease, and says both doctors and society should respect the independent wish of a dying patient to prolong his or her life. It's not only directed to believers, nor is it only for other religions. It's for all men and women. The declaration emphasizes the right of spiritual care for the patient and supports having clergy involved in the final days. It acknowledges the connection between physical, psychological, and spiritual dimensions of a person.
We are forbidden to kill ourselves, whatever the situation.
The religious leaders are asking politicians and health professionals to support initiatives that protect the human person and commit to involving other religions in the fight to defend life. Yet, but it's not only the rights of patients who are protected, but also those of doctors. It says that no medical physician can be pressured to assist in the deliberate death of a patient, especially when it goes against their religious beliefs, which should always be protected. At the Vatican, Melissa Butts, Currents News. Back to you, Tamara.
Melissa, advances in medical technology are making euthanasia and doctor-assisted suicide more likely in the United States. How does this joint declaration address these concerns?
Yes, in fact, while the 10-page document doesn't necessarily mention the United States, it does mention society at large and the responsibility that everyone has. Also, for these advancements in science and technology, while they have now been able to prolong life, they also bring about new problems that didn't exist before. And for example, one of the things that it does mention is that in Western cultures now, many people are dying alone in hospitals and in nursing homes, which had never happened. And because before, for example, people would die in their homes surrounded by their family and friends in a loving, comfortable environment. So really there's just this call for this moral and ethical responsibility from everyone, even those in the United States. Tamara?
Thank you. Melissa Butts reporting from the Vatican.
Thank you.
New York State's legislature is considering making assisted suicide legal. Although no votes have been scheduled, right next door in New Jersey, terminally ill patients are allowed to get life-ending drugs from doctors. That law is on the books after a court challenge. New Jersey is one of 8 states where doctor-assisted suicide is allowed. A 9th state, Maine, will permit medical aid in dying starting in January. A federal judge is blocking Alabama's strict pro-life laws that bans nearly all abortions in the state. The The legislature passed the measure in May. It was scheduled to go into effect next month. Now, Judge Myron Thompson is issuing an injunction to prevent that and keep abortion legal while the case winds its way through the courts. Alabama is one of several states that approved new laws to ban abortion. Legal experts predict the U.S. Supreme Court will ultimately decide their fate. For the first time, a current White House official is testifying in the impeachment battle. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman is a Ukraine expert in the National Security Council. That country is central to what the Democrats are investigating. John Lawrence reports.
So that was a big
More
day.
static about President Trump's phone call to Ukraine, where he requested the government investigate Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and his son, Hunter.
How is it an abuse of power? It's sicking a foreign government on an American citizen to investigate them to help the president stay in power.
Army Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman says that July phone call concerned him, calling it his sacred duty and honor to advance and defend our country, irrespective of party or politics. Vindman is telling House impeachment investigators he reported those worries to a superior.
He has the credibility, the stature, the proven service to the country, the willingness to put his life at risk and stand up and do what's right.
Mr. Trump's supporters say there was nothing inappropriate about the call.
The transcript of the president's call with President Zelensky shows that there was no quid pro quo. He did nothing wrong.
This fake impeachment inquiry has been ill-conceived and illegitimate.
Meanwhile, on Thursday, Judge Richard Leone wants to hear from lawyers from the White House, the House of Representatives, and from impeachment witness Charles Kupperman. This after Kupperman filed a lawsuit asking the federal court to decide whether or not he has to testify. I'm John Lawrence reporting.
President Trump has now declared that the next in line to take over ISIS has been snuffed out by soldiers. The president tweeting this morning. Just confirmed that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's #1 replacement has been terminated by American troops. Most likely would have taken the top spot. Now he is also dead. The White House did not clarify which leader the president meant. Baghdadi was killed over the weekend in a raid by American troops. Now an update on the California wildfires. They're only getting worse. Flames are raging out of control and fierce winds are whipping up further destruction. Millions of people are being put on alert against the danger. Nadia Romero reports the latest on the battle that's consuming the state.
It's a tale of two regions, Northern and Southern California. The Kincaid Fire and the Getty Fire. Both unpredictable, both spreading, both forcing people to flee.
Oh my God, I'm so scared.
Leaving once populated neighborhoods free from signs of life. What's still to come?
The danger has not passed yet, and we continue to monitor the situation.
Wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour in the north and as high as 80 miles per hour in the south.
Those can pick up and transfer the fire miles away sometimes.
Windy, dry conditions fueling flames, but threatening lives in a much different way. Up north, it's wine country. Through the eyes of firefighters, the Kincaid Fire's flames surrounding them. Down south, the highly populated Los Angeles County has already seen homes turn to ashes. Evacuation orders continuing, with officials across the state sending out even stronger warnings.
Be prepared to go at a moment's notice.
Nadia Romero, Currents News.
The flames are sparking prayers from Catholics and bishops in the area who are asking God to end the hellfire. Archbishop Jose Gomez from Los Angeles sending words of hope to his flock, saying, "Please pray with me for the families at risk and also for the firefighters and other first responders. May God keep them all safe and bring these fires to an end. May our Blessed Mother Mary be close to all of them." The CEO of Boeing apologized to Congress today. Dennis Muhlenberg now admits the company deserves new scrutiny for failing to address problems with its 737 MAX jet.
We can and must do better. We've been challenged and changed by these accidents. We've made mistakes, and we got some things wrong.
Within a period of months starting a year ago, 2 737 MAX aircrafts crashed, killing almost 350 people. Muhlenberg admitted to lawmakers that he was warned of the jet's issues before the second crash, but didn't explain what actions were taken. There's a lot more news headed your way. A Catholic priest is saying he refused to give Holy Communion to Joe Biden. That leaves many asking, is it fair to single out one person for their political beliefs? Father Christopher Henyu is moments away to look at the controversy in depth. An update 1 year after the worst massacre of Jewish people in U.S. history.
Because it's the right thing to do. Because if you don't, the other side wins.
All one survivor wants to do is get back inside the Tree of Life synagogue. Plus this, a Girl Scout in the Diocese of Brooklyn is leading the fight against breast cancer. It's a battle she knows well. A Catholic priest is saying he refused to give Holy Communion to Joe Biden because the Democratic presidential candidate supports abortion. The former vice president stopped by St. Anthony Church in Florence, South Carolina on Sunday. When he presented himself for the Eucharist, Father Robert Morey turned him away. In a statement to a local newspaper, the priest said, "Holy Communion signifies we are one with God. Our actions should reflect that. Any public figure who advocates for abortion places himself or herself outside of church teaching. I will keep Mr. Biden in my prayers." We reached out to Father Morey's Diocese of Charleston for comment, but haven't heard back. And Joe Biden is saying he won't discuss it because it's his personal life. Joining us now to break down the controversy is Father Christopher Henyu, the administrator at Holy Child Jesus Church in Richmond Hill, Queens. Father, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
What's your initial reaction to this?
There's an idea that we believe that if we need to receive Jesus in order to benefit our soul. And that's true. We need Jesus to benefit our soul. But there's also recognition that if we receive our Lord in a state of mortal sin, in a sinful state, we can do more harm to our soul than good. We have to be mindful of being in a state worthy of receiving our Lord for anyone. In Vice President Biden's place and in many politicians' place, I think it's even much more public.
Now, some people are saying and asking if denying communion to a political figure is hypocritical. If you prevent Joe Biden from receiving the Eucharist, what should be done with those parishioners who also support controversial issues?
The fact that Vice President Joe Biden would present himself to receive Holy Communion could for some be a scandal. The fact that this priest has denied him Holy Communion could also be for some a scandal. Each one of us, my friends, each one of us, all of us as Christians, as Catholics, who have received their first Holy Communion, have to recognize the cause for scandal that we might be by our actions, by our thoughts, for what I've done, for what I've failed to do, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. And so it gives us an opportunity to think about the great sacrament of confession.
Well, so with this in mind, how should Catholic priests minister to public officials or others who don't necessarily agree with some of the church teachings, like abortion?
Sure. If I could just say, there's a code of canon law, and it's a book of 1,752 canons. It's all laws, rules that priests must follow, rules that the church must follow. And the last one is this: the supreme law of the church is the salvation of souls, and everything points to the salvation of souls. Was this priest trying to save the soul of Vice President Biden by denying him Holy Communion for that the reception of might have damaged him more? Could this priest have done it in a more private manner, perhaps before the Mass? The salvation of souls is the supreme law, and I really think that as a minister in this diocese, I care so much about the souls of my faithful, and I try to encourage them to come to confession and try to lead them and walk with them on these journeys. And I will continue to pray for this priest, for whatever it was that motivated him in one way or the other, whether we support it or not. It's really getting us talking about it. So
Father Christopher Henyu, administrator at Holy Child Jesus Church in Richmond Hill, Queens, thanks so much for being with us.
Sure, thank you.
On to an update tonight on that student from Covington Catholic High School. A federal judge has reopened the $250 million defamation lawsuit against the Washington Post. The judge had initially ruled last summer that the student Nicholas Sandman could not sue the Post for defamation. He has now reversed that decision. Sandman attended the March for Life in Washington, D.C. last January when viral photos and videos appeared to show the teen attempting to intimidate an older Native American activist, an interpretation later disputed by additional videos. Also tonight, anti-Semitic attacks in the United States are nearing record levels. The Anti-Defamation League recently released new numbers calling them horrifying. There have been 780 anti-Semitic attacks in the first 6 months of 2019. That's almost identical to the acts of hate reported for the same period last year, when there were 785 attacks. The troubling news concerning hate comes at the same time people are remembering the worst massacre against Jewish people in U.S. history. 1 year ago, a crazed gunman ran into Pittsburgh's Tree of Life synagogue, bent on killing as many people of faith as possible. Emily Druby reports that even though the synagogue is still closed, worshipers have not stopped praying for those who were lost.
David Rosenthal, Bernice Simon.
Every day for the past year, the names of the 11 Jewish people shot to death in their Pittsburgh synagogue have been recited before the mourners' Kaddish, the Jewish prayer for the dead.
Amen.
Joe Charney has been attending services 5 days a week, often leading the prayer.
Amen.
Charney is only a visitor at this Beth Shalom congregation. His home synagogue, Tree of Life, remains closed. The 91-year-old was inside when a gunman slaughtered 11 people, including 7 of his friends.
So we heard a noise, and I didn't pay much attention initially. He didn't shoot me. He started with the people who were seated.
The deadliest anti-Semitic attack on American soil.
Yes, the suspect keeps telling about killing Jews. He doesn't want any of them to live.
The suspect recently offered to plead guilty in exchange for spending life in prison, but federal prosecutors rejected the offer and are seeking the death penalty. 365 days later, the building hasn't reopened yet. In some ways, it's become a memorial, a way to remember the victims, much like the reciting of their names.
And we also remember Joyce Feinberg.
It feels good to recite those names because I know I'm doing the right thing, and I know that I'm doing something for me and for them at the same time.
Charney's friend of 50 years, Judah Samet, also recites the names. He narrowly escaped the massacre, stopped from walking inside by a man.
I would be right in the middle of the shooting. So he's the one who really saved my life.
It isn't the first time he escaped death. As a child, Samet was at a Nazi death camp in Germany.
We see somebody dead, we walked around him out of respect. But eventually, we were awakening. We stepped on them, we could hear their bones cracking. Didn't mean anything. By the age 7, I have seen more death than life. You see Irving Younger, he was the first one to get killed.
The targeting of Jews yet again changed the way he looked at his synagogue for a while.
And I looked at that and I said, this looks like a tombstone. There is no holiness emanating from this building. It had 11 bodies in it. It's a cemetery.
But a year later, all he and survivor Joe Charney want is to go back to their sanctuary.
Because it's the right thing to do. Because if you don't, the other side wins.
But until that day, they will be here, honoring the friends they lost.
Still is great. I'm glad we do it. I like to hear the names. I think they make a difference, and I don't want them forgotten.
Amen.
Emily Druby, Currents News.
Joe Charney says he wants the world to know that the lives of the 11 people lost still mean something, and they always will. Still to come on Currents News. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Ahead is important information all women need to know. And we'll introduce you to a Girl Scout from the Brooklyn Diocese who knows the disease all too well. She's become a leader in raising awareness. And please check out one of the latest features in the tablet, the Our Diocesan Family page. That's where you can send in photos of your family receiving certain sacraments, such as baptism, First Communion, confirmation, and marriage. For more information and submit your pictures, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. We'll be right back. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As always, doctors and advocates are calling on all women to get mammograms in order to prevent the deadly disease. According to the American Cancer Society, after skin cancer, breast cancer is the most common cancer in women and the second leading cause of death. 1 in 8 women have a chance of developing the disease. In 2019, it's projected about 268,600 new cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in women, and about 41,760 women will die from the disease. But there is also hope tonight. There are currently more than 3.5 million breast cancer survivors in the United States. One Girl Scout from the Diocese of Brooklyn knows the battle of breast cancer all too well. Both of her grandmothers have fought the disease. Now she's leading her own fight to raise awareness. Current's News' Tim Harfman has the story from College Point.
This isn't your typical high school dance. Students and parents coming together to raise awareness about breast cancer. Amanda Bradley is a senior at St. Agnes High School in College Point, Queens, and also a Girl Scout. She put the event together in order to earn the Gold Award, the highest honor in scouting.
Both my grandmothers had breast cancer, so it was a topic close to my heart.
One of them lost the fight against breast cancer before Amanda was born. The other grandma, Marie Bradley, beat the disease.
Oh, I'm so proud of her that she can do this, but I'm not surprised.
The 17-year-old is an honor student and active at her parish in Elmhurst, Queens, where she's a Eucharistic minister, an altar server, and a religious education teacher. At the awareness event, Amanda shares her family's emotional journey. There's also a lot of fun. Pink desserts, balloons, and a photo booth are part of the festivities. Amanda's mom, Irene, points out that a lot of important information is also available.
Everybody needs support one way or another. So whether it's by means of resources, by means of information, or just by lending an ear, it's our Christian value.
Now the Bradley family's fighting the disease again. Amanda's grandmother has lung cancer.
We want to be there for her more. We want to hang out more. We want to just talk more. And every moment's more special.
Right now I'm going through that, and a day at a time. You know, I'm here today. I have a lot of good people praying for me, and prayer works.
The power of prayer in the fight against cancer. In College Point, Queens, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
That is Currents News. I'm Tamara Lane. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.